Oops. I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, we're all set. All right, let's go ahead and get started today with our presentation. Comes right on the heels of the last one. But if you missed the last presentation, I'll have enough here to kind of get you ready for it. If you want to see the presentation last week, it is ready. I finished editing it. I'll put this out part 1, part 2, so you won't miss it. They're just both about going to be both about a little under an hour, even with your questions. I bet you that will end up there. All right, so this will be the I'll go ahead and just submit people, Bailey, right away. This will be the July 3rd, our July 30th, our 5th meeting that we've had in the series. And you see below our website and our YouTube channel where you can sign up for. I think I have it at the end too. We encourage you to go to YouTube and get our latest YouTubes. I'm dropping 2 videos tonight about 2 things happening with the SAT. I did not do view graphs for them. So I didn't get a chance to, but I'm going to do videos very short on them. And I will link you to the page, anybody that's here today, to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe there. Now, on the SAT, there is going to be an epic shortage of sites for the October and November SAT. In fact, if you go on now to register for the SAT for October, you'll find you're going to take the trip further away, like Riverside, Antelope Valley, or down in San Diego. And there's a reason for it. I'm going to make noise again this year like I did 2 years ago. And it's because the school districts, LAUSD, Long Beach, have really stopped using their schools for the SAT. And some colleges have too. So you have only 30 to 40% of the sites we had last year for the SAT. What does that mean to you? Well, first of all, the August, you can forget it. If you haven't gotten August, you'll have to go to Phoenix, Las Vegas, or Reno to take the test, or Seattle or something. You got to go out of town to take it. If that's uncalled for, that's fine. You need to take the October sign up tonight. And you're going to be further away still. Somebody told me Los Alamitos added a bunch of seats, Los Al High School. You might try there first. Remember, the way you try schools further away is you make your distance further on the drop-down arrow. It's a default of 5 miles on the SAT on the drop-down. So that's number 1. You need to make sure that you register for the SAT. Number 2, I probably should talk about, remind you that if the student's going to take it more than once, October's the last chance to get to take it more than once. I see a record number of people whose students haven't taken it the one time. And so now you have, if you take it October, you can take it again in December. If you take it in November, you won't get your scores back in time to know you need to take it. You say, well, I can just do November, December. That's fine. That's the only way you're going to get it. If you do November and December, you register as a pair, which is going to increase your costs, but it's the only way to ensure there are 2 times taking it. Are there any questions on that? I'll do videos on both. They'll be short and to the point. There'll be 2 separate videos, but I really hope you hear that about the SAT. Now, we offer SAT prep at a very reasonable cost. It's right now in the Princeton Review classroom online. We'll get in person as soon as we get a place where we can offer it. But right now, the prep for the August is online classroom. We just finished the session today, a session today. And then for October, we'll have it as well online. We hope to be in person as soon as we can. Let's just put it that way. All right. Any questions on that? If there are questions, you can just open your mic up and ask me, or raise your hand, or put it in the chat, whatever you prefer. My people who are here will see it. And let me see who I have here. I have Bailey Salisbury here. Say hello, Bailey.
Hello.
Bailey's from George. She went to George Washington University, graduate, works with me now. And let's see, I got Quinn Davis here, went to Cal State, California, CSU Long Beach. She's here as well. Say hello, Quinn.
Hi there.
Okay, and those two will be watching the chat as we go through here today with the presentation.
Deacon Wilson, I did have a question. I'm sorry. I
Right
was
ahead.
having some technical issues when you were talking.
Yes.
You said for the SAT prep it's going to be online, and that's for the month of
No,
August?
I didn't say that. The prep. Yeah, the prep is online for August. It's on the Princeton Review Classroom.
Okay, and that's online for August.
For the August prep, it's in progress now.
Oh, okay.
And then the October will also be online.
Okay, so we'll talk tomorrow because we have our meeting tomorrow then,
Right.
To see whether or not.
The question will be in that meeting. It's a little different for her because she took the prep. It will be
Right.
we need more review. That's the question I expect us to uniquely answer in your case.
Okay, so okay, perfect. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we have it tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Let's go ahead and get started here. We talked about this last week about the college admission process. We said that we see it as 5 different types of colleges. You have a data-driven college list. I won't go into that today, but a list that's driven by GPA and income of the family and various things. And then we said that we could there'd be application acceptances, FOFSA submission awards, then they all would come together. Let me close this little thing up here. There you go. Whoops, I'm sorry. I forgot to do this. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. We have FOFSA submission and awards, application acceptances, etc. All right. So that's kind of an overview of where we were last week. And then you do a cost determination trade-offs. I'll be with you every step of the way if you want me to be. And that's one of the questions you need to be asking yourself throughout the presentation. It's a recurring theme is how much am I going to be involved? How much are you going to get from the school? The schools last year were kind of assertive in the area of financial aid and helping students with FOFSAs, but there were a lot of mistakes I had to clean up. I cleaned up about 15 to 20 FOFSAs or FOFSA issues in March through June. If I just cleaned one up a month ago at one school. So I don't know the quality of the assistance, but I assure you, if we submit your FOFSA or we work with you on it, it's going to be high quality and done properly. So factor that in, and then also factor in how much help students need on their applications. Will the school be there every step of the way or just to start them off is a big question. I'm meeting with several students the next week who schools did workshops, but they didn't really start their essays. We're going to make sure they start them. So let's talk about the application process. We talked about that. You're really close to it. Out-of-state public universities, we think most of them can be submitted starting the 15th. I didn't mention this last week, things I'm going to say now. They tend to be rolling admission, which means they'll admit 30 days or 2 weeks to 30 days after they get everything in. They get your application, your transcript, and if they require test scores, many of them don't, these are out-of-state public universities, they'll make the decision right away. So a lot of people know by the time they get to the end of September, which out-of-state public universities have accepted them. California state universities, you'll do the 1st to the 31st. And many of them, if you apply early, you'll know early. It's not true with all of them. The selective, more selective, we're going to talk about this, Cal States, they won't tell you till, March or April. Early action private colleges, if we work with you, we'll tell you the best ones to apply early. The biggest mistake I see is there's too many early action applications and the quality of them is just terrible. You just want to do early action when you think you can get more money from a school. It doesn't mean if they're going to admit you because you apply early action. Depends on the grade still. They could throw you to the regular period. So early action, you're just knowing earlier if you're in. It doesn't really mean it's better to get admitted. It's a very complicated question, actually. Universities of California, I will say on private, there are certain schools you definitely should apply early. And that's because of affordability. They're giving away most of their money to students who apply early. That applies to HBCUs big time. I think anybody applying to HBCUs should have them all done by the middle of November. They all should be submitted. But of course, most people apply to HBCUs all the way into the next year they'll be applying. And any money they have, they've given away at that point, give it to the earliest applicants. So HBCU is a little different on that. Universities of California, the 1st to the 30th. You're going to hear in the news this week, oh, the application's available on August 1st, right? It didn't say it was due August 1st. In fact, you can't even submit it till November 1st. It's just available to be filled in. Filling out an application is not that hard. The tough part of applications typically is the essays. The essays take 90 to 95% of the time. I have more to say about that later. December 1st to 31st is your regular period private colleges. If you have really long lists, I still think this is a good argument for keeping them short. I think 15 schools is plenty. If you count the UCs and CSUs as one each, that still allows you 10 to 12 private colleges. When we have 20 and 30 private colleges, you start submitting them in January, and then you got to manage all of them for their financial aid information. It's better if we can trim these college lists down to a really manageable number. I know people think you apply for more, you have more opportunity, but if you strategically apply and get the right guidance, you can hit the right schools all the time. I do it every year with students. Application essay development, and that's where we can give you one-on-one support. And then of course we do application delivery support. Again, this is another review view graph, but also to make the point this week I made about the different application periods and to point out how close we really are to actually submitting applications. Okay. Why every student is 3.0 to 3.3 or below should not predominantly apply to selected private colleges. A lot of people feel if they have 3.0, they can apply to every private college. And that's really not true. Notice I put the word selective private college in there. And these selective private colleges are the most coveted ones, the ones that people really talk about a lot. For example, we talk in HBCU, I should have done a view graph for this. You're talking Howard and Hampton and Morehouse and Spelman. These are HBCUs you could get a reject letter to. The rest of them you probably won't. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions in there I didn't mention, like Xavier maybe. But just because you can get in, there's some reasons why you still may not make your entire list private colleges. While my mind is on it, I like a balanced list. I like to see a college list that's going to have, let me go here. I don't know why I like to see myself. That's going to have, a little of this, little of that, little of this. That's how you get the affordability. You spread around it strategically to different types of colleges. And that strategic college discussion needs to be had. It is not had by most guidance counselors. Guidance counselors are great for telling you, here's all the schools that have your major, or here are all the different schools admission-wise. They're not as good at fine-tuning for affordability and strategically applying based on all the different things about the student. This is where we can be helpful because we have real life experience. First of all, this includes HBCUs, which are mostly private colleges. Now, none of this means anything. If 100,000 to 300,000 for 4 years is okay with you, for many people, it really is. I mean, last year I saw a record number of people willing to take on that kind of debt coming out of the pandemic. When you're talking, if you go to like USC, let's say USC gives your student, gives your student $35,000, 40,000, let's go 40,000. They're still going to owe 40,000 for school. It's 80,000 to go there. So 40,000 times 4, that's 160,000 if they do it in 4 years. That's the kind of indebtedness that you're looking at when you're looking at a private college. Now, if the grades are super high, which is why I did 3.0 to 3.3, if the grades are super high, they may be able to pull merit awards at certain schools. And this is going to blow your mind. There are schools where students have super high grades, super high SATs, and you're still going to pay 15 to 20% of the cost of the school. And that good example of that is Ivy League. All the Ivy Leagues have a standard amount that families who make more than $120,000 are going to pay. In California, Southern California, that's pretty common to be above $100,000 when there's two incomes. Okay, let's continue. Okay, here we go. So this also applies to out-of-state public universities, the ones that we always hear, you know, Arizona State, Oregon State, UNLV. These are very expensive out-of-state public universities. Georgia Tech. These are going to be between $50,000 and $65,000 a year because they can't give merit awards to out-of-state students. And the ones that can, give it to the ones that have super high GPAs and super high SAT scores, not just great SAT scores and great grades. That isn't necessarily enough. And we're talking unweighted GPAs, by the way. Complex admission requirements, little chance of success. That's right. You have very complex admissions requirements sometimes that make it very tricky. There's schools like Georgetown where you really have two-part application. You deliver one, they get back to you, deliver the other one. There's a lot of schools that do things like that because they're selective private colleges. And you have to gauge whether the effort is really worth it. Okay, explanation. Unless the GPA is 3.85 plus unweighted, the SAT is above 1,300, right? Unless that's true. Popular and known four-year selective private college is not always affordable, okay? Admission is possible with reduced GPA and a high SAT, but what about affording it? I really want you to think about the affording the school too. These are two entirely different issues. And again, these are not the kind of conversations that are had in most guidance counselors' offices, because usually they're looking out for the interests of the school. If it's a private school, they want to have a lot of students going to certain types of schools. They're looking out for their interests. I totally understand it. They want to be able to advertise. We had a certain amount of students go to these kind of private colleges because that's the clientele that are going to their high school. You know, and as far as public schools go, it's just not a lot of great affordability facts and knowledge. Some people use me just for that, just to go over the college list and make sure it has some affordable schools to balance off against those other schools. And beware of guidance counselors that are forcing you to apply to schools that they want and don't want you to go outside the window of what they have for you. You should definitely rebel against that, parents. Students should get the school they earn and want, not just the school they want. Earn means if they don't have, again, it's no sin if they're not, 3.85 plus unweighted and 1,300 plus, you can still have good grades, 3.6, 3.7, 3.5, SAT 1,200. It just isn't high enough to get maybe this dream selective school they might want. I mean, like last year, for example, USC was particularly brutal. They looked for really high unweighted GPAs from students of all racial backgrounds. It didn't seem to matter, okay? Well, let's talk about our delivery support. We do a lot in the area of CSU support, first of all, because the CSU application is not user-friendly. The grade self-report that it requires is not a user-friendly document, for sure. It's just not. Let me see if anybody's snuck in on me. I'm looking for. But only 1/3 of the people who signed up are here. That's okay. Maybe they're watching live. System more in. So the self-report is there. Then there's application delivery. And what we do is we have a data form we're going to give you that you'll fill out, and we'll submit the application self-report and deliver the application for the student. However, we'll teach the student how to follow up, because only they can follow up on those. So we teach them how to follow up on the applications and set up the portals and do the things that are necessary to do the CSU application. We'll do it for support costs of $55. We'll take it all the way through to the end, input everything and make sure everything's right. If there's a problem with the getting admitted, we think you should be admitted. We have a lot of influence with certain CSUs, where we can call that CSU up and move that application along or find out what the issue is if they're an admissible student. So that's how we help with that. We also can help you with delivering of UC applications and selected private colleges and put the whole thing up. So in the red, if you track the red arrows, you see UC requires a grade self-report, essays, and application delivery. And okay, and we do delivery oversight, but look up here. The black arrows are tracking UC and common application, okay? Because they both have essays. And teacher recommendations, the black arrow is tracking the private college. The red arrow is UC. UC does not have teacher recommendations. But look at the teacher recommendations coming out of private college. Private colleges typically require essays and teacher recommendations. Now, there are exceptions. If they're on the common application, which we'll talk about in a minute here, they're going to require some sort of teacher and or counselor recommendations. Then notice the transcripts, if you follow the black arrow, are required on private colleges. We help you with delivery oversight of transcripts. There turns out there are a lot of ways to deliver transcripts incorrectly, and we do protect you on that issue, okay? Let's see, delivery oversight, we help you also with the application delivery. Now, again, the decision you have to make is how much are we going to help your student with? How much? Even the SAT prep in the red over here, do you need SAT prep? That kind of thing. Some of you have already talked to, obviously. You should be gauging all along the way what kind of support is needed. Now, I put down here education enrichment for the self-report and for the Common App essay. We can offer help for the Common Application essay and the Common Application essay startup and support. We already have some students who've started on their essays, and we have a couple that are finished, actually. Let's talk about the Common Application process. More than 1,200 colleges now accept the Common App. It's predominantly accepted by private colleges. There are some state colleges on there, but it's mostly private. Most popular HBCUs, in quotes, accept the Common Application. A few notable schools do not accept it. Biola, Brown, Georgetown, there's others too. They don't accept the Common App. Set up the account at commonapp.org. Tomorrow's a good time to do that because they just dropped it on Friday, 3 days early. It's out there. The correct application is out there. The essays have been out there for a while. They announced 3 months ago they're keeping the essays the same. So they've been out there. The students are required to pick 1 out of the 6 essays to submit. Many require additional supplemental essays and short answers. Let's look at the process charted out now. You open up a Common App account. Again, let me know if there's any questions. You can simply open up your mic and ask, and I'll stop. You'll be shocked. And if you ask it in the chat, one of my assistants will point it out. Or if you just raise your hand, they'll point it out to me as well. Because there could be questions here. You open up the Common App account, and you put you can go select the Common App college list. It has a great drop-down selector to select the Common App college list. You put them all in there, and then the Common App will track your progress against those. You have essay development, and if some of you have, I can't think of the software, your counselors have software that will be able to track your Common App development. Some of you will link me into it too when you set it up, where we can watch how you're developing your application. So there's essay development. There are going to be supplemental essays too. Remember, the essay development is where we said we could help you with that. So you start with essay development. Many people think you start by filling out the application. It's just not true, parents, please. It's not true. The work should be done on the essay first. Okay, if you don't get through those, you're not going to have an application. And 95% of the work on the Common App is the essay. Then finally, you start filling out the Common App fields. And the teacher and counselor recommendations are sent in the Common App, and Common App puts them with the application. Turns out there's a way to input their email addresses and they get a notification. They can fill out that recommendation and send it in separately. There's no real letter of recommendation anymore, parents. Yeah, the Common App, it goes in digitally. When the recommender, I do recommendations every year. I do at least whole 30 or 40, because you can have other recommenders. And I encourage you to do that if I have some kind of a work that I've done with your student in SAT or summer program or after school. We certainly can do community-based recommendations. I do a lot of them every year. And when I send it, it goes directly to Common App. Then there's 3 different ways, typically applications are 3 different most relevant ways. You can have an early decision delivery, and that should say early action. Early decision is very rare. Early decision means if you accept it to the school, you have to go there. There's no choice. But you do have early action deliveries and restrictive early action deliveries that are pretty common. Restrictive early action was developed in the last 4 years. It means that if you get into a particular school, you cannot go to any other private school but that school. You can go to a state school or a school in your state, a private school in your state, but you cannot go to any other private school out of your state at all. You're restricted to that school. So be very, very careful about early decision and restrictive early action. I recommend highly against it. If your counselor suggests it, please let me know so I can give you a counter argument at least. Regular.
Can you say that again? You said which one you would not do? Which one?
I wouldn't do early decision or restrictive early action delivery.
So early anything? No. Okay.
Well, I would do. One I left out. Let's make sure. I would do some early actions.
Okay.
The straight up early action delivery, I would.
Earlier.
I wouldn't do too many though. Sometimes people do too many, and the students go crazy.
Are you gonna go over the differences? Like,
well, I'll hit it again right now.
Okay.
I'll go into more detail on it individually.
Okay.
First of all, there's early decision. That means if you get in, that's where you're going. Period. That's it. And colleges have sued over that. Okay. Related to that would be the posse. If anybody's doing the posse, if the minute that a school picks you, it's over. That's an early decision program. The same thing true if a few of you are doing, what's the other one? Questbridge. That's an early decision program. Now, I do not prefer or like early decision. It takes away the ability to shop around, and they will not give you more money. That's it. They will not. Because why should they? You're going. It's not in their best interest to get more money. They give a merit award and they'll move on. I don't know. Early action delivery is a possibility, but restrictive early action, you just need to think about that. Because if you get into a school with restrictive early action, and the word restrictive must be there. If it's restrictive early action and you get into a restrictive early action school, you cannot attend any other private school. So if you go restrictive action to Princeton and they let you in, you can't go to USC. If it's a local state school, you can go. If it's a local private school not on the Common App, you can go. But USC is on the Common App, and they would, you can't. Clearly, I like early action, because early action, you're not required to go to the school you get in. And of course, regular decision I like, right? Of course. Hope that clarifies a little bit. Again, you can get this video and look this segment over.
Yes, sir, it does. I was like, yeah, thank you very much.
And again, I don't know what counselors are saying. I wish I knew what they say sometimes so I can give a better way of describing it maybe, right? Okay, let's go on. Where do CSUs fit in? California State Universities. Yes, I dare mention California State Universities. Those dastardly schools that private school counselors say are lesser schools. Ew, we would never send anyone there. Well, I'm going to dispel some of those myths right now, okay? I've had some of my greatest students in high school go to CSU affordably, and are having great lives right now. So first of all, we have our two-year colleges. There's 112. They're for all students, and they can do transfer degrees to CSU and UC. Talking about state college system now. University of California has 9 campuses, okay? Just one moment, okay? Let me see if I can't, 1 second here, okay? Okay, I'm back. University of California has 9 campuses. The top 10% of high school students. That's right, our UCs by state law can only accept the top 10% of high school students. So I see a lot of students every year who are 3.4, 3.5, 3.3, 3.2, and they're applying to UC because the high schools do something that I don't like. They force students to apply to UC. I see them doing that and all the work they have to do. I feel so bad, but none of them they don't get into any of those schools. I feel so bad for them. I don't know what to do when that happens, except to just keep telling you they accept the top 10% of high school students. California State University, 23 campuses. They take the top 33 to 40% of high school students. Now, I should go back to that 10%. UC doesn't mean that all of them do 10%. Some UCs are 15 and 16%, right? They'll take the top 15 or 16%. Then some only take the top 2%, like Berkeley, UCLA, UC San Diego, you know, all the ones you want. They'll take only the top 2 to 4% of students. Excuse me. California State University, there are 23 campuses. They take the top 33 to 40% of students, okay? Is Christina there? I don't know if she's in here.
Yes.
Aha. I might have you do one of these few graphs.
My son and I are both here.
Okay, you're both there. All right, that's cool. All right, the campus list. Here are all the CSUs. The asterisks are non-urban CSUs. CSU Chico, or called Chico State by some. Humboldt State, I gave you the official legal names of these schools. The San Francisco Bay Area CSUs. San Francisco State, San Jose State, Sacramento State, Sonoma State, CSU Maritime Academy, which is the Merchant Marine Academy of the United States. East Bay, Central California, CSU Fresno, or now been approved to be called Fresno State. Stanislaus State, yep, there's a Stanislaus State. CSU Monterey Bay, CSU Poly San Luis Obispo, CSU Channel Island, they're in Central California. Then LA, we have Cal State Los Angeles, CSU Dominguez Hills, CSU San Bernardino, Long Beach, Northridge, Bakersfield, I put it in the area. And then CSU Poly Pomona, and of course Fullerton. Southern California CSUs, San Diego State, and CSU San Marcos. The non-urban CSUs have asterisks, meaning they're in the deep suburbs or in a rural area. All right, those are all your CSUs. They're in all different places, different settings. Some are urban, some are rural, some are big, some are small. They have a nice cross-section of different offerings and career offerings. Let us be involved in helping you with your CSU list, because there's another thing you got to think about, which is impaction. We'll talk about that in a minute. What does it take to get into CSU? Now, I'm spending all this time with CSU because I think everybody should have a couple of CSUs on their list, because things change. Things can change at home, students. Don't go, I need to get out of state. Well, fine, but put some CSUs on your list for insurance. It won't hurt you. And there's some CSUs you can go to that can change your life. And there's some CSUs you can go to that's so far from home, anybody come to see you, you're gonna be in your own world. But CSU and UC theoretically is a minimum, UC CSU GPA, which is the way it's listed on your transcript. Getting to CSU, you have to have a 2.5 for what we call non-impacted CSUs. I will explain to you what impaction means in a minute. Test scores will not be required or accepted for CSU. They only use the test scores if they have them for course placement. So I tell people the student is GPA 2.4, 5, 6, like that. They maybe taking the SAT will help with course placement. But it's not required, okay? Remember, it's only A through G subjects that are looked at and determined in the GPA. I'll cover those on the next page. How is it computed? It's 3 years of high school. So it's 10th, 11th, and 12th grade is the UC-CSU GPA, and for only certain courses that are A through G approved. We're going to cover that in a minute. On the transcript, what is it called? You pull the transcript, parents. This is a good homework assignment. Look at the transcript, students and parents. It's called one of the following. Academic GPA is the CSU GPA. University GPA or UC-CSU GPA or weighted GPA. That's the weighted GPA is close, very close to being the CSU GPA. I hope that helps. On the application, classes in progress and planned during the 12th grade year will be reported on the application. Okay? Any questions out there?
Yes, one question. So
Okay.
for the UC and CSU schools, they look at the weighted GPA and not unweighted?
Now, I'm going to say yes, but only up to a point. Like, for example, on CSU, we're getting down the weeds now. But I'll tell you, I think once you get to the 4th AP or honors class, CSU starts not to count them, whereas UC will continue to count them to the 6th or 7th. So there's a limit to how many they'll count, okay? Sister
Okay.
Kimberly, does that help?
Go
Go ahead and
yes.
ask a follow-up if you need one.
Yes, that helps.
Sister Kimberly?
Okay, it may be a dumb question, but
There's no such thing.
what is the difference between a weighted and unweighted GPA?
Excellent question. I'm glad you'll ask some questions. I had to grab some carbs here real quick. All right. On a weighted GPA, let's do unweighted first. On unweighted GPA, a is 4, a B is 3, a C is 2, a D is 1. And you don't get nothing for F. We add them all up, we divide basically by the number of credits, and that's the unweighted. So unweighted uses regular grades, regular letter grades. And I'm telling you, CSU looks more toward type, and UC look more weighted. Now, that's a great question because they're the only two schools that do that you care about right now. When private schools like Howard and Morehouse and USC and those kinds of schools look at students' GPA for scholarships. Ready for this? They're looking at unweighted. So if you took a lot of AP classes and got a lot of Bs, your unweighted GPA is way lower than your weighted GPA. And scholarships are going to be based on unweighted. There are some exceptions to the rule. Which is why, Sister Joyner, I think students take too many AP classes. It's too many because it artificially lowers the unweighted GPA. Because you just
That's a good point. I thought the more APs you took, the better off you looked. Now you're saying in the reverse. Depending on what they look at.
It depends on how much money you have, I was going to say.
Okay.
I thought you needed to get merit awards.
No, not really. I mean, well, they
Whoa, you don't need
No, I'm not, hold up. I'm not saying I don't need it. Yeah. All the money that we can get each way, the kind of way would be nice, would help. Okay. Put it like that. I'm not saying I don't need nothing.
Yeah, I think we take too many. You know what I think we should be doing instead? I think we should take more 2-year college classes. Because when I'm reading applications for GW, they tell me to look at those just like AP. And there you're getting college credit. And guess what? When you take a 2-year college class, the teachers actually teach. Oh my goodness. Whereas on AP, they're teaching to the test or they're making the student learn on their own. I have a lot of problems with the AP in general. But as far as if your school offers AP, we need to pick the AP classes strategically. Like here's a good example for seniors. You should not be taking, the rule is you shouldn't be taking any AP classes this year unless you got A in the previous course or A in a course that leads up to it. And I really think we're taking too many as seniors, and it's driving down the GPAs in that 7th semester. So when the college is requested, it's low. And I know you're thinking about UC. We only think about UC, but UC is not the world. It's not the end of the world if you can't get in Berkeley or UCLA. There's way more to the world than those two schools. And they're actually big old research schools. A lot of students shouldn't go to them anyway. Anyway, so this AP discussion is very wide. It's a very wide discussion. Counselors generally want to say, take the APs, you have a chance of getting into selective schools. What if you've already had enough? Should you continue? And then also, there's something to be said for taking 2-year college classes and presenting a lot of college experience early. They see that too. Anyway, let's continue. Okay. On the application, the classes in progress and plan reporting, we already talked about that. All right. Let's talk about the minimum classes needed for CSU admission. And this year I better slow down because I may have a junior or two in here seeing this. They're preparing to have juniors and sophomores. So I got to be careful because this math framework just passed and UC blew them away by telling them they had to change it. You can go to my YouTube page and hear all about the framework. But anyway, for math, it's Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry. 1 more year is highly recommended for math, or 1 year of quantitative reasoning. Data science is a good selection for the 4th math, if you will, but it should never replace Algebra 2. So parents, if you have a 9th or 10th grader in school, they're going to be trying to give, this is going to be really blunt, sorry. For a lot of our minority students, they're going to try to give them data science in place of Algebra 2. Parents, don't let that happen. You insist on Algebra 2, or your student will be encumbered from a STEM career or a business career because they won't have Algebra 2. And CSU and UC have already spoken. They're not going to accept it as a replacement. Anyway, so I'm going over right now the courses needed by CSU for admission. Some people call these the A through G requirements. I just say the courses needed for admission, okay? Sister Kimberly, another great question I can tell.
I'm sorry, I have
Don't be sorry, don't be sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, so, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and you're saying it's good to have a 4th one. Is it mandatory that you have a 4th one if you're not interested in a STEM career?
What CSU you talking about?
Well, we're just still looking. If she stays this way, it will be some more where like they have performing arts. So that's what she's passionate in, performing arts. So
well, as long as I don't hear a school that's impacted. I'll come back to you when I get to impaction.
Okay.
As far as the 4th year, you could take quantitative reasoning. Come on, how about business math?
Like stats or something like that? If it's
Sure. Or business math.
Okay.
Or data science.
I don't know if they have, I know they have statistics. And
there you go.
She's going to take calculus. So
no, I wouldn't do, you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. Okay.
I'm just saying, or notice the or there.
Right.
I think every student should take 4 years of something. The 4th year can be quantitative reasoning.
Okay.
That makes them competitive and able to do college work. And CSU and UC do require 1 year of college algebra. So you want to be ready to take college algebra.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't care what you major in.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Anyway, but private schools too, but I'll talk about that later. English, 4 years, 8 semesters, a mixture of composition and literature. Now, we think in 12th grade, there's too much literature being taken. You need to take an expository writing class in 12th grade, or at least one semester of writing. And a lot of these AP classes in 12th grade, they're giving you literature. And college professors don't care if you can answer questions like, if I were a tree, what would I be? They don't care about that. They care about, can you write a comparison contrast essay? That's the freshman writing class. We need to get these students more ready for freshman writing in college. So another way to do it is go ahead and take your literature class. Then in the summer, go to a 2-year college and take a writing class and really learn how to write, okay? I said, I already know how to write. Well, remember, you had a 1.5 years, 2 years where you were on a computer learning how to write. I don't know. I'd make sure about writing that they're doing writing this year. Lab science, it's going to be a life science, usually biology, and a physical science, usually chemistry. Again, we like one additional general or lab science is recommended. And here you go, Sister Joyner, for potential STEM majors. But I didn't say it for math, did I? It's almost like I don't want to be cheated in their business.
Right. No, but I
But
totally.
they don't have to know about, the genetic relationship of lions in Africa. They don't need to know that. But they'll need to know, all of Newton's laws or something. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think she got science covered. So, okay.
All right. And by the way, this is why I say classes. I don't say A to G. Y'all notice that? I don't say that. I just say the classes you need. And I put mine out of order with A to G on purpose. History and social science, you need 2 full years of 4 semesters. 1 other year of social studies would be nice. Foreign language, 2 full years. Nothing will hurt you having 4 years of Spanish if your grades allow it. I think students should be Spanish fluent. We have a partner, happens to be my daughter, but she has a nice business which should help your student move to fluency. I don't know if any of her former students are in here now. We had a goal of moving at least 25 of our kids to be fluent in Spanish. I think we made it to 14. We'd like to get some more. But that's a job skill now, folks, especially in Southern California. 1 full year of the same art. Now, since I have at least 1 art student here, when you start to get to 4 or 5 art classes, CSU will not count them in the GPA. Okay, keep that in mind. If you get a lot of A's in art classes like performing arts or other kind of art, I think the limit is 4 classes. Okay, you can report them all, but they're only going to count the highest 4.
Okay, thank you.
Keep that in mind. Okay, sometimes they'll say, well, I'm taking an extra art class and I'll drop one of these other ones, but that's okay. But just realize if you're looking at a selective CSU, which I'm going to explain in a moment, that's not really good for you. Electives, 2 semesters is all you need. Don't have to even be the same subject, but I highly recommend 3 years of electives. Again, if you can't, that's fine. If you take an additional math, let's say you take calculus, which is an additional year of math, that can count as an elective. If you take data science, that could be an elective. Say if you take a 5th literature class, make a 5th year English, that could be an elective. You see how that works? Extra science, that could count as an elective, okay? Okay, I hope that helps. I wanted to make sure this time I really went into detail on it. I just threw it up last time I did it a couple months ago, but in light of what's happening in the news with the math framework, I thought I should review them all. And I probably need to do a separate video just on this slide for my underclassmen, because I feel like if there's a chance for students to drift away from A through G again all of a sudden. Course validation. So we established that you need to take those courses and it's the GPA on those courses. But what if you get a D or an F in one of these? Well, the answer is you have to make it up. Or do you? The answer is you have to make it up. Or do you? To be CSU eligible, CSU students must get a C or above in each of the A through G course semesters that are self-reported on the CSU application. Now I changed my terminology back to A through G, didn't I? Meaning that course list on the page before. You got to get a C or above. They're going to be self-reported on the CSU application. So when you're doing the CSU application, there should be no D's or F's on there. If they are, you need to be making up those classes or make plans and make them up. Or do you? We'll see. When students get a D or an F, listen closely. Either the subject must be validated by future coursework or made up in summer school or an approved online program. So most of us do the second thing, just, oh, I got a D, make it up. But you didn't always have to do that. You could have done other stuff too, and I'm going to explain it now. Because sometimes there are too many D's to be made up right now, and you don't have to make them all up. And I've learned that counselors don't know about this course validation for CSU. By the way, there is no real course validation for UC. If you get a D, you got a D. Make it up. There's no validation, but there is for CSU. Validation means that success, meaning an A, B, or C, in a future sequence semester of the course, where there was a D or an F before, validates or removes the D or F. I'm going to give you examples, don't worry. The following course categories allow validation, so it isn't for all courses. Physical science, lab physical like chemistry or physics, you can get a D and still be okay. Mathematics, you can get a D somewhere and still be okay. I'll explain it. Language other than English. Yep, you can get a D or an F and be okay. Okay? I'm going to show you how in a minute. Summer school, two-year college, online coursework, you can still do. You can make up for courses in the other A through G categories. Or you can just say, I'm not going to do validation. I'm just going to make it up. You can do that as well, because that could be a GPA decision too, right? Let's take a look at some examples of course validation. I'm going to do them for time. Very good. There's some examples. Here's a student took Spanish 1A, they got a B. Spanish 1B got a D. Spanish 2A got a D. But in Spanish 2B, they got a C. They don't have to take any more foreign language. It's done. Because the C and 2B validated the other Ds. Now, a lot of counselors won't tell you that. They'll make you take Spanish 3. And I think that's one thing this student would not need to do. Good Lord, they already got a D twice. So that's an example of validation with language other than English. French 3A, I had a student once that already was fluent in French. They took French 3A, they got a B. French 3B, they got a C. They didn't have to take any more French because they're validated for French 1 and 2 when they took 3A and 3B, all right? Here's some examples with math that might blow your mind. Now, remember, if a student's GPA is low, they might make up a course for GPA reasons. This is just looking only at the subject requirements. I had a student that had an Algebra 1A, it's about 4 years ago, got an F, and 1B, they got a D. They found us and started going to tutoring for Algebra 2. They didn't make up 1A and 1B. When I got a hold of them, they hadn't made them up. They took 2A, they had us help them. They got a C, they got a B and 2B. So that kind of validated Algebra 1, you understand? Then they went to geometry, they got a D. Geometry B, they got an F. Then they took pre-calc and got a C. They dropped pre-calculus B. This student met the A through G requirements for math. Now, they might not be able to get into an impacted CSU, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, or selective CSU, but they got into CSU. The students certainly did, and they graduated from CSU last year, actually. So that's something to think about math. It is a validatable subject. Chemistry, the most famous example, happens every year. Students get a D in chemistry A, they get a tutor or whatever. Chemistry B, they get a B or C or an A. They don't have to take chemistry A over again. But notice biology is not listed. So if you get an F in biology, you get a B in biology B, you got to take another semester of some kind of life science. In this case, it was anatomy, and the student got a C. I hope those examples help. Again, you can get this video. I think the presentation is available in chat. Keep putting that presentation link up for people as well, whoever's handling it. I can't remember who's doing that. All right, let's talk about area impaction. Now notice I added the word area. Everybody says impacted and they mean something different. Everybody means something different. Today I'm talking about area impaction for admission. It's admission area impaction, meaning what area CSU is your high school in? Not your house, your high school. That becomes relevant, like students from Sarah High School, they could be living up in LA, right? They could be living in Cal State LA's area, but that high school is in Dominguez Hills area. Area impaction means that most CSUs will first admit students in their area by high school. And then there are few or very few spots left remaining for students from across the state. Most famous example, San Diego State. There's no other CSU in San Diego County, right? So once they service their high schools, there's only a few spots left. And you know it's going to be based on grades. So to get into San Diego State this year, I think my students had to be 3.8 weighted. 3.8 to get into San Diego State. And it is a very coveted, very desired CSU for students. They love to go to San Diego State. CSU Long Beach was the second most difficult to admit. So for LA students, it's difficult to get into Long Beach. Okay, keep that in mind. You have to have really good grades. You have about 3.7 weighted. Now, some years, in the last 3 years they've asked me for a list of our students who've applied. They only give me 3 days to give it to them. I'll email out. I'll say, I need to know who's applied. Now, of course, I'll know for those that I helped, right? I'll know they applied to, I don't even bother to email them, right? But for the others, I'll email, I'll say I need the list, because Long Beach has been very nice to our students, as low as 3.5. But you got to have good grades to get into some of these CSUs because of area impaction. Northridge is another good example. It's very difficult to admit. But see, the thing about Northridge is a lot of my students who are west of La Cienega, that's Culver City's area. So, you know, like St. Bernard, all those private schools that are on the west side, you know, Brentwood, Archer, let's see who else on the west side. If you're west of La Cienega, University High, Culver City, you know, Venice, their area, CSU is CSU Northridge. Everybody else, it's difficult to admit to Northridge. I hope that that's clear to you. It goes by high school. CSUs that are not impacted have, well, let me stop there. If you want to know if you're a high school, just shout it out. I'll tell you what area it's in. It's insane, but I can usually tell you. Everybody get the picture? All right, no question there. Usually get a lot there. Okay. CSUs that are not impacted have many spaces for students across the state. And they'll admit students with a minimum GPA of 2.5. Which CSUs are these? Bakersfield, Dominguez Hills, Channel Island, Stanislaus, San Francisco State, but there's limited and very high priced housing. Limited and high priced. And in fact, because of the turmoil with crime, students are going to have to live further outside of the city and commute into San Francisco. It's going to be a very, you know what, I'm going to stop mentioning that. Yeah. This is getting to be a very difficult CSU to access because of this issue. And now with the crime issues in the city, and it has affected my students who are going to the University of San Francisco. We've had some interesting, unfortunate things happen. CSUs that have, okay, here you go, area impaction. Here's some CSUs that have histories with me anyway, of 2.7 to 3.1 for out of area students. Sacramento, San Bernardino, Poly Pomona for most majors, because Poly Pomona impacts my major, and CSU Monterey Bay. Here are the highest GPA CSUs. Poly SLO, San Diego State, CSU Long Beach, Fullerton, I should go back to CSU Poly SLO. It's the most selective public university in the nation, right here in our CSUs. So why people say CSUs are, lesser schools, every year, I think it's 16 of our CSUs are in the top 40 public universities in the country. So we have a pretty good system. And also, many of them are the best in certain majors. And then you have Poly SLO and Long Beach and San Diego State. They're three of the most selective public universities in the country. So I don't know where this comes from, that they're lesser schools. I think it's something the counselors say to make you consider private schools a little more. CSU Northridge, San Jose State, Fresno State, and Cal State Los Angeles are 3.4 to 4.2 when you're not in their area, okay? Remember, if your high school is in the area of these schools, then admission will be 2.5. The exception is Long Beach. If you're in a Long Beach area high school, they'll have to be 2.8 to get in CSU Long Beach. Here's some other oddities of impaction.
Excuse me, Deacon Wilson, I have a quick question. For the CSU schools, for the GPAs out of area, does that include out of state also?
Oh yeah, that's a different problem out of state, but yeah. You have a different issue though. They're going to cost 40 to 45,000 for out of state students. Okay.
Okay.
Same thing with UC. UC is going to be $60,000 for out of state. They do it to us, we do it to them. That's where they look at it. Other oddities of impaction. I should go back and say, but there are plenty of schools, public universities in the West that'd be glad to give you money. Just not our CSUs. CSU Poly Pomona impacts by majors only. That's an oddity. They don't have an area CSU. They don't have an area high schools. They don't have any area high schools. They impact by major. Different majors, some majors are harder to get into than others. I should say that about Northridge. They're kind of a hybrid. They have about 10 majors that are going to be difficult to get in if you have that major. You just have to know that. And the tip-off is that CSU Northridge doesn't let you have an alternate major. So you can tell there's something funny about majors and CSU Northridge. Really get help from someone who knows, like me, if you're going to apply to Northridge. Really be careful. CSUN, there it is, impacts by major, even for its area students. Area students have to beat area impaction and major impaction. So if you're an area student, sure, 2.67, you'll get in, but if you have a certain major, you throw in the pool with everybody else. Okay, here's some of them: TV, video production, business, athletic. Oh, by the way, business does not include business administration. Business administration is not impacted, but finance, accounting, they're all impacted. Athletic and physical training is impacted at Northridge, as it is at many CSUs, by the way. And music production. These are examples of majors that are additionally impacted. All CSUs impact pre-nursing in some way, and then nursing itself later on. CSU Poly SLO, as I said earlier, is the most difficult to admit public university in the nation. How to beat impaction? How do I beat it? Have high enough grades. You have to have high enough grades. And those of you who have students who are sophomores or freshmen or 9th, 10th, 11th, this is the way you got to beat it. Got to beat it with grades. Know which CSUs are impacted for which majors. You can Google impaction at and put the CSU's name, and you'll find out what majors are impacted. Know which CSUs have which majors. You can go to this site right here. Just Google degrees in Cal State. You'll find out which CSUs have which majors. Or, always apply to your high school's local CSU, right? You always want to get that local CSU on your list. Understand completely the difference between career and major. Yeah, and they are different. I'm gonna do a whole separate session on that in October for students only. There's a big difference. Or you could just ask me. Ask me about certain CSUs, and that's one thing we know a lot about CSU. They're a major partner of ours. Why CSU? Students are accepted with GPAs of 2.5 or above. The tuition is 11%, as low as 11% of many selected private colleges. I always like to do this. CSU Long Beach is $6,000 for 1 year of tuition. USC is, for tuition, is going to be $65,000 this year. So let's stipulate that USC is, I don't know, a better school. The real question is it 10 times better? Right? Because that's what's happening with selected private colleges. And the Long Beach is a good example because it's a highly rated state university. Nothing out of pocket for a local CSU. Now, I got to put an asterisk on that. You will have, that's if you take the student direct loan, there's nothing out of pocket. If you don't take it, then I just told you, it's $6,000 for the semester. More ethnically diverse. CSU is more ethnically diverse than UC. More majors than other schools. I think it's Cal State LA has 200 majors, and most UCs have about 30 to 50 majors. Students many times say they want to stay close to home. Fine, so CSU is a good alternative. There are many different types of CSUs, large, medium, small, 23 campuses in various settings. Okay. Timelines. The period is the first to, we say it's the 1st to the 20th. I think I put 1st to 11th somewhere. But the application stays open until November 30th, and many CSUs will be open into next year. I would think in terms of November 30th. It's the CSU applies, the application website, grades are self-reported using the transcript. There's no essay, no recommendation. Transcripts not required unless specifically requested. If you have a counselor that's wanting to send your transcripts to CSU, you've just met an amateur. They do not require the transcript. In fact, they'll just shred it. But what happens is if they shred it, then they ask for it later, you'll think you already sent it, and then that's a very unfortunate thing. Transcripts are not required unless specifically requested. SAT, ACT, that's kind of outdated because they're not reading the SAT and the ACT. Common reasons for non-admission or non-enrollment. CSUs on the list are all area impacted. Wow, watch out for that. You don't want to make them all area impacted. And then, of course, the GPA is too low. Improper major versus CSU list. Student does not regularly read their emails. Right, they don't set up a portal or they don't read their emails. And so this university asks for information. They don't provide it, they don't get in. Work with us, that's not going to happen. We're going to make sure they're watching their email or we're watching it. Student does not properly set up information portals using initial emails from CSU. Grades are improperly self-reported, A-to-G requirements are not met, or not properly replacing grades. All right. This chart is really a redo of the other one. It just tells what we do in the process. I'm not too worried about that. Some people wonder about test scores for class of 2024. What are the positives? Well, GPA of 2.5 to 2.8, you can get in. The SAT is not required for admission. Yes, it can be used for course placement if the GPA is low. Note, if parents are willing to take on larger debt than CSU, then the CSU is still, the SAT is still important. You might say, well, it's not important, they can get in. But if you're going to be going to some selective private colleges or out of state, it could still be important. Check in with me if you're not sure. What will CSU cost? Local CSUs are nearly nothing out of pocket for a student who lives at home. It's $2,400 to $7,000 for a full year, depending if the direct loan is accepted. If the direct loan is accepted, it'll be about $2,000, $2,400 a year to go to CSU. CSU, what are the local CSUs? Long Beach, Dominguez, LA, Poly-Pomona with a little driving, Fullerton, a lot of non-sustainable driving, Northridge, a lot of non-sustainable driving. Those are realistically what schools are close, okay? For families who make $45,000 or less, it's going to be $3,000 to $6,000 for 1 year. It'll include, you'll have the room and board covered, and that's called direct cost. 45 to 56, you're going to pay 7 to 9, including room and board, tuition and fees, direct costs. So if you make, 55,000, you're probably going to pay about 6,000, 7,000, I'm sorry, 8,000 or so for CSU, and you'll have room and board for your student. Families that make above 58,000 could pay 9 to 27,000 for 1 year, including room and board. Some CSUs cost more than others, so let's look at that. San Diego State, San Jose State, San Francisco State. Those are the 3 by far most expensive CSUs. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, CSU Fullerton, CSU San Marcos, and CSU Northridge. Those are the highest cost CSUs. The rest of them are lower, some considerably lower. Here's a chart I put together showing some of our schools that are popular with students. This is for a family that's a 3.6 student unweighted, family income of $80,000 plus, 80,000 plus. Grand Canyon will be 14,000 for the full year, including room and board. CSU would be 17,500 room and board. They get a little bit of merit on that, a little bit maybe. Boise State, about the same. That's why we send a lot of students over to Boise State, about 18 to 20 students over there right now. We'll be touring that school September 12th to 3rd and 13th. If your student's interested, I'll email about it this week. UC is going to be 24,500 for that family, making 80,000 plus with the 3.6, if they get in. The 3.6 is not clear they'll get in, but it is unweighted, so it could be 3.8 weighted, right? Private college, $29,000. That's typically what that family will pay. Then selective private college, $35,000. Let's give you an idea what you're going to pay for college. College affordability basics. Here are the types of schools that are going to be more affordable. Protestant Christian colleges, Western state colleges, some Big Ten large Division I colleges in the Midwest, like Iowa, steal. It's a steal for California students, but nobody usually wants to go there. Certain private colleges are going to be a great buy. Lehigh University, George Washington. These are schools that would be a good buy for a private college. While my mind is on it, I don't have listed here. I should have said traditionally Black colleges. Some traditionally Black colleges are great buys if the students have decent grades. Norfolk State, Virginia State, East Tennessee State, FAMU, North Carolina A&T, if the students have grades, right? Notice I didn't include the private schools in that. I included state schools that are Black. Those are called traditionally Black colleges. Then, of course, California State University. For UC, it's pretty easy to know affordability. Below 50,000, students pay nearly nothing out of pocket. That's for room and board and tuition. 55,000 to 75,000. They're going to pay 2 to 8,500. This is for room and board and tuition. Then the 80,000 plus, it could range from $11,000 to $32,000. Other basics to know: for incomes greater than 60,000, HBCUs and other private colleges, you can plan 25,000 to 42,000 per year. For incomes less than 60,000, again, we got a student here that's 3.6 or lower SAT. These are not bad numbers, but they're not super high. That's why I made sure I carefully picked these two numbers up here for GPA and for SAT at the top here, okay? If a student can get into CSUC, he or she can go to most private schools for way less due to academic merit awards. So they can get into UC LA or UC Berkeley. That's a tip off. They'll probably be able to get a lot of money from a private school out of town. Okay. All right. Again, any questions, just let me know. We're almost done here. College enrollment and the financial aid review and award process. We presented this last week. I want to make an observation about it. So I put it all the way back up. Just remember, it's going to use the 2022 federal, looking right in the middle of the screen. It'll be based on the 2022 federal income tax transcripts. So your 2022 income determines what students will pay in 2024, fall 2024. You can see down here, upload the 2022 return to the CS profile. The other observation I should make is that some schools require the CS profile. That's why there's dashed lines there. And that means you're going to have some non-custodial parent information. That's something parents should have to factor in. The other parent's going to have to provide information on most of the CS profiles now. So when they have that extra CS profile needed, it's an extra financial aid document above and beyond the FAFSA. There could be non-custodial parent information required. That's something you want to be aware of. For 640 of the colleges, that's the situation.
I'm sorry, Deacon Wilson, when will that scenario come into play for the non-custodial parents information?
What do you mean, when in the timeline, or when did it start happening?
Or no, I'm sorry. So what scenario would that take place where you would need the non-custodial parents information? I think I missed what you were saying.
If they're going to have a CSS, let me break it down. If they're going to have a selective private college, the odds are 2 to 1 that they're going to need non-custodial parent tax information.
Okay.
Now, there's some private schools where you don't. I can construct a college list where it only uses the custodial parent. I could do that. But again, that's not the kind of support you typically going to get from a guidance counselor in school. A lot of them don't even know about the CS profile.
Mm-hmm.
But the non-custodial parent data is a major way that students have not gotten the schools they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Because
they just will not award the financial aid unless they have that information. I can give you a story about it, but it'll make me cry to finish it.
Okay, we can talk more detail about that
Yeah,
tomorrow also.
Let's get offline on that.
Yes,
I really
you.
want to understand. I really want parents to understand that this year. I've been a little lazy about that and bring it up like in March and make people's jaws drop. I really want to make sure I bring it up early. So press through to me and get a hold of me. And I guess put in the chat there, Quinn or somebody, throw in there my email address. And, go ahead and put my cell number in. I don't care. Put that up in the chat so people can get a hold of me right after the meeting. I'm usually expecting a lot of communication after these meetings early in the process. It's part of my job. Was that Sister Joyner?
That was Cherie.
Oh, Cherie, yeah, right, exactly. Okay. All right, FAFSA stand. That's one thing we should look at tomorrow. That when we're looking at that list tomorrow, we want to be strategic how we do that.
Yes.
Final list. The FAFSA facts to consider. And they're good ones. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So it's not FAFSA, it's FAFSA. FAFSA for the 2024-25 academic year is based on 2022. First date for filing the FAFSA. And now this is where it's controversial. The government announced a month ago that they're going to have to delay the delivery of FAFSAs until the 1st of December. Then they said, well, it wasn't real, then it was. So really, it might be December 1st. But if I were you, I'd be ready for October 1st. I would do all the stuff I mentioned today to get ready. It could be December 1st. They claim they're making changes to the form, in which we always cringe when they say that. Because when they make changes to these forms, there's a lot of problems early on. They don't do a lot of beta testing. We recommend that all FAFSAs be filed, that's right. And of course, be ready to file. If the form hasn't dropped, we just sit there and wait, right? Colleges no longer require the tax return. Remember, parents, when you went to school, the tax return was required. No more of that. If you make less than $55,000, the college will require a federal tax transcript, which has only the information they need. Some selective private colleges also require a financial aid document called the CS profile. And that's where you get into what we said a minute ago. The CSS profile process may require information on divorced or separated, otherwise known as non-custodial parent. The FAFSA only requires information on one parent. Lots of schools only require the information on the one parent. And so that could be a good thing for students if it's only the custodial parent, if you have someone that doesn't want to provide information. It could also be good if they pick the parent that makes less money. If there's not an issue of custodial, they share if they go between parents. You can pick the parent that makes the least amount of money. And a lot of us call that the divorced child rule. Separated, divorce, whatever. Okay, more about the FAFSA. The FAFSA is not very user-friendly. It's highly likely that you will make a mistake. If it's your first time, using a mistake is not critical, but sometimes it is. This is what you need to file the FAFSA. There it is. You need a FAFSA username and password for both you and your student. It's the youth and parent. It's their FAFSA parents, so it'll be filled out as if it's them, but your signature is also needed on it. Your electronic signature. So we need username and password for youth and parent. And therefore, if I'm doing well, first of all, if you're filing it yourself, go to the following document online to get some procedures. Mistakes on the FAFSA also happen in the follow-up phase when colleges ask questions or you think you need to make a change to the FAFSA. That's where problems occur and financial aid is delayed. Please, no youth should file their own FAFSA as a first-year student. Do not do that. Now, we do not have a commercial service like online FAFSA.com. It's about $1,000. They'll file it. You can make a donation to us for $55. Not only will we file it, we'll file it with expertise, experience. We filed over 1,000 last year. And we'll be glad to help you with yours. And we'll do it, we'll follow up. We service it. Like if you get questions from the school or you have particular things you want to change on the FAFSA, come back to us, we'll make that change for you. We're trained by the Department of Education and we know how to file them. Other FAFSA considerations. Order your usernames and passwords today. That's a good homework assignment. You go right to this link here. If you order the document, you can click on the link or just Google create username password FAFSA. It'll take you right to the site. Remember, youth and parent each need a FAFSA username and password. I put it in red because that's important. The important thing is to allow yourself or us, you need to test the username and password to make sure they work, right? It's the one thing that delays FAFSA the most. Take the time to order your username and password. I said it again today. I would get it out of the way, parents, because you want to know if there's any issues with ordering it. Like sometimes people find out there's a typo on their birth certificate or in their social security data, and those are hard to correct. You want to know about those things right now. Those of you, sometimes people have found out that their name on their social security card is different slightly than their name they've been using. The most common situation is divorces when dashes are added to names and maybe they get into the social security records, maybe they don't. Usually they don't. So it's the original maiden name and social security. I've seen FAFSAs held up for weeks because of that now. Unfortunately, I know about it. So I start looking for that right away. But you want to surface those issues early, parents, very early in the process. Important tips when creating a username and password. It's an important view chart. Make sure you click that link for this spreadsheet, this presentation, then save it on your computer, or just email us. We'll link you to it. Both student and parent must create a username. There I go. I said it again. Each student should use their names as they appear on each one's social security card, not necessarily the ID or as you are known to others. Watch out for assumed names after divorce. The name may be hyphenated after marriage or still be hyphenated, still the one prior to marriage. When making the FAFSA username, keep it simple. Our format recommendations for username, first initial, last name, 4 or 5 numbers. Keep it simple, okay? FAFSA password, 4 letters, 1 capitalized, 4 numbers, 1 special character. Keep it simple. Keep things as simple as possible so you don't have trouble logging in later, or I won't have trouble if I'm doing your FAFSA for you. Yes, we do FAFSAs. We did over 1,000 the last 5 years. You can email Quinn Davis. She'll send you the link for the 2425 form, which she's hearing right now. She has to update and get it ready. You might have done it already. I don't know. So you need to make that up, Quinn. on Cognito, okay?
Okay.
All right. You see, I'm telling them to email you right there, right? You will need a functioning FOSSA username and password to complete our data form. You will need to consult the completed 22 tax return when you're doing our data form. The donation for completion is $55 for filing, or for all follow-up and college additions. We'll get you through verification too. We will help you with all paperwork and school requests. You let us file your youth's 24-25 FOSSA. Now, CS profile is going to be extra. It is case to case, depending on the complexity of the CS profile. Like you own a lot of property and things like that, it's a little more complex, right? If it's straightforward, sometimes I just go ahead and do it for nothing because there's nothing to it. We will file 1st to 20th for the first 40 data forms. The FOSSA deadlines start in December for a few early action private colleges. Here's what you should be doing now. You should be having a college readiness meeting with me or with someone or some kind of process. I'll take the 3-year transcript, SAT scores, preliminary college list. We go to that meeting. And then I'm able to help you organize the CSU applications for delivery. You'll be ordering a FOSSA username and password. The UC essays can be started. It doesn't say Common App. Oh, it just does. The Common App essay, the UC essays, and then we're off to the races. College application list development. Some people are already in this process. They start earlier. And then we could do some kind of customized application support agreement. We'll write an email, what we're going to cover, what we're going to do, and we'll be able to help. Now, we can take a limited amount with these types of agreements. We try to have no more than 10 or 12, or that's where you need to figure out exactly where you want us to help you. Like, do you want me just to do the FOSSA? Just want to come to the meetings? You want to get on the YouTube channel? That'd be great. You certainly can do that. I would definitely get on our YouTube channel. That's very important. Slap that link up there really quick, someone in the chat, so people can bring that up and then you can go over and subscribe. Subscribe to it today. I can't cover everything in the meetings, so I drop a lot of short videos there to help you through the college process. Here's all our emails, my cell number. Here's my team that works with me. Christina Martinez, Quinn Davis, Bailey Salisbury, they're all here today, or I don't know. I guess so, yeah. Guess Quinn is here. I think Christina's not, but anyway, you guys know about her. All right. Okay, that's all I had. I wonder